cars here today. And anyway, it's a good, beautiful car. I wonder if you could tell us what year and model and all that.
It's a 1970 Corvette. I bought it brand new, ordered it in October of 1969, took delivery June 12th of 1970, and drove it for about a year stock. And after that, I was a custom kind of guy and started doing little customizing things to it. The motor was all done up by Bob Prouty, who's a friend of mine. Unfortunately passed away about 10 years ago, but built vintage race motors. So we built it up to about 525 horse at that time, 12.5 to 1 compression. Race motor, basically. Racing fuel, all that. I was a young man. I didn't care.
That is your system?
About 10 years ago, I said I had enough of this racing fuel and 500 and some horsepower, and we detuned it to about 4.25 horsepower, 10.5 to 1, and it's just a little more civilized. I even took the 411 Deers out of it. A friend of mine that's sitting back in the tent put some 355s in it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just, now that I'm not a young man anymore, it's a little more civilized, but the whole body's been customized. A lot of different parts, flares, roof's been extended, different panels on the bumpers on the back, flares on the front, custom paint, house of color on a custom mix. It's a little redder than the standard gold-based candy red, but it's 3 tones. It depends on how the sun hits it. The sides are lightest, the top one's stripe. Recaro seats. It's been my kid for 40 years.
Did you switch out the transmission too to a wide ratio?
Transmission's a close ratio, 4-speed. It's not the M22, but it's more than I need now. All I do is run around to car shows and cruise nights, this kind of thing. It's not like the early days where I'd tape a $20 bill on the dash and say, if you can reach it while I'm going through the gears, it's yours, and nobody ever reached it back then. But it's nothing like that anymore now. These nice little sporty cars, the rice burners that the kids ride around in nowadays, I'll do this any day of the week. But it's
don't have that torque though, do they?
Don't have the torque or the sound with the hooker headers on it. I mean, it's wild, but we enjoy it. And my wife has a car too. She's got the maroon Betty down the end. And we were introduced years ago by a mutual friend who said, I got a girl who has a vet, you've got a vet, maybe you'll have something in common. And here we are. That was 1982. And now we have his and hers in the garage. So she's got a stock 67, and then we got the customized 70. It's our fun in the summer, and it's Rods and Relics Car Club is what we belong to, and support the community through the club, and we have a blast. That's why we're here.
What town are you from?
Mequon.
Mequon.
We'll have to interview your wife too in her car.
Good luck. She's pretty quiet about it all. She doesn't even like having her car judged, but it's here, and she likes, it's a nice NCRS, about a 92-point car, beautiful. Put some bags on hers, but just because I wanted her to keep up with me instead of the stock wheels and tires.
She's content.
Yeah. That's about it. We just have a blast. You can see it's taken care of. And that paint job was done in '94, believe it or not. So it's held up pretty good.
We weren't sure who the owner was, and my wife says, well, jump in it one time, you'll find out real quick.
Oh, I think most guys at this little thing are pretty careful about what it is.
Yeah.
was a $96 option, which gave you wide open tires, the stripes, the sport mirrors, the hood scoops, the front bumper, the different grille, and it was just in a package that they included. So it was actually a very economical car, and we paid $2,900 plus $116 tax in 1971 for this thing. And but if you look at the interior, the seats, even the original formats, carpeting. The steering wheel is obviously aftermarket, but there's oil pressure, water temperature. There's been a few liberties taken. And in fact, Wednesday is my birthday, and my wife very thoughtfully ordered from Summit a new Pertronics distributor that will be right in there. But it's been kind of a hobby to figure out how to make it run, and people say a modified engine should be tuned differently than the stock engine, but how do you do it? And in fact, I took it out of here because I gave it to a friend of mine, but I came up with a multi-page sequence of, and it's really true for any engine, on how to recurve the distributor, how to reject the carburetor, and what to do to make the car run better. And in fact, another thing is a 3-row instead of a 2-row radiator.
Right.
But the extra horsepower was still a little on the borderline when you go along the highway, temperature-wise. And the high-volume water pump, I figured, gosh, it doesn't get any better than that. And kind of coincidentally, I was looking, I actually broke the other distributor because I've got the rev limiter set at $7,000, which when you, they told me I could take this engine now to 8.
Really?
But I broke the fins, the fan on the alternator, and I then eventually just destroyed the alternator. When I got this Power Master, they had in the brochure, look at the pulley size, and there's a maximum RPM for an alternator. I never knew that.
Really?
But when you wind the engine that tight, the alternator was over revved, and I was doing bad stuff to the alternator. Hence, thinking maybe too much water going through the radiator and too fast in the alternator, went to underdrive pulleys.
There you go. Thinking.
Underdrive pulley solved the alternator problem. Underdrive pulley solved the temperature. This thing now, go down the highway, I don't care whatever, 178 to 180 degrees on 180 degree thermostat. If you're sitting at a long light, the fan will kick in at 185 because that gauge on the inside is programmed. And it'll never get past 191 on the hottest days. So, it's really just real well behaved and kind of fun, goes like hell.
Well, thank you, John. I really
Well, thank you.
appreciate that, yeah.
Good chat with you.